welcome everybody. Welcome to our latest CTO Craft Bytes. Today we're going to be talking to Shalini about hiring engineers from non-linear pathways and specifically digging into a program that she's helped to develop at LinkedIn. So just a little bit of information as this is your first CTO Craft Bytes. CTO Craft is a mentoring and coaching community for technology leaders around the world. Probably quite a lot of people around the US, which is where Shalini is, and myself, I'm in the UK, in Manchester, on quite a sunny day today. And it focuses on supporting technologies on their leadership journey and growth. So community members are over 5,000, and the CTO Craft provides them with one-to-one coaching, mentoring groups, a great curated Slack community that I can highly recommend. You use that quite a lot, and events like this one. So huge thanks to our headline partners, AWS and O'Reilly, for helping bring these events to us. So my name's Anna Dick. I'm CTO at a recruitment tech business called Hiring Hub, and I'm going to be moderating and having a nice chat today. Shalini, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Shalini Agarwal. I am part of LinkedIn, the Senior Director of Engineering there, and responsible for building sales solution enterprise product called Sales Navigator. I also lead the LinkedIn's Reach Apprenticeship program, which we'll go into details. It's designed to hire and train nonlinear pathways talent to the LinkedIn's engineering team.
Great. And I see you're wearing some merchandise as well, is that?
That's right. I think it's mirrored, but it says Reach, which is the name of the program.
Name of the program. Great. Okay, cool. So there is an area to ask questions at the bottom of the screen. This is the first time I've done the Crowdcast tech stuff, so hopefully it'll be seamless. But if you can put your questions at the bottom, and then we'll be able to answer those at the end. Okay, well, thanks very much for joining us today across the ocean. I think it's morning for you and kind of tea time for us over in the UK. But yeah, let's get started. So I think with recruitment for tech staff and particularly engineers becoming much harder to find, demands going up as demand for the roles increase, I think lots of people are having to look at different and innovative ways, I guess, to find new members for their teams. So can you tell us about some of the challenges maybe you've been having at LinkedIn in getting new engineers?
Definitely. I mean, here in the Bay Area, we are in the tech hub, and there's a lot of competition in hiring software engineers that are sought after, and our recruiters look for that cookie cutter way of identifying talent. And in the last couple of decades, that demand has continued to grow. And our pipelines are so, I would say, small, where everybody's competing for the same talent. And at the same time, there are all these great folks that want to be engineers, didn't get to go to college and study computer science, but have learned that skill from a self-learning perspective or going to alternate schools like community colleges here or boot camps. But they are not picked up by our recruiting pipelines because recruiters look for that same cookie cutter way of looking at talent. So we wanted to create this alternate funnel, alternate path for hiring great talent that is more like entry-level talent that we can nurture and grow and invest in. It's very similar to investing in an intern when they are coming in for their summer program, but more longer and looking at them and giving them an opportunity. So it's more about widening our pipeline so we can get in people that are smart, that are motivated, and really want to become a software engineer, but our traditional ways do not allow that to happen.
Yeah. Okay, great. And just out of interest, are you still fully remote at LinkedIn?
So we are starting to open up slowly, but I am currently remote in my home. And once or twice a week, people are starting to just go check out. We just opened it this week in my Sunnyvale office. So I haven't been there myself yet at a desk, but we're starting to slowly start, but mostly remote.
Okay, cool. And did you find, in terms of finding talent over the last year, how kind of COVID has potentially impacted that general talent pool that you've been?
Well, as you may have all experienced, as the pandemic hit, everything was frozen, both from a hiring perspective and people looking for a change because nobody knew what's coming up next. I would say over a course of last 6 months or so, the hiring has started. We have started to hire people during the pandemic We have had remote hires, both as an apprentice and as full-time. And the biggest challenge was, how do you onboard these folks when there's nobody sitting next to you to help you find that smallest thing that you need to just click on or find to get your build going, because every tech stack, every company has it customized for their needs. That has been a challenge, and there are people that I've never met. I've only seen them on the screen and are part of my team. And looking forward to really connect with them in person. But yes, remote hiring has definitely happened in the last few months.
Yeah, we were just talking about it briefly before. I've had some experiences of fully remote onboarding and hiring, which has definitely been a learning experience. But it'll be good to meet some of those people in person, actually.
That's right.
Okay, cool. So I know that we've got a bit of an international audience today with listeners from around the US and Europe. So it's probably worth noting any differences from the more traditional apprenticeships. I guess in the UK, these were originally kind of supported on the job initiatives for school leavers that normally had an educational support kind of wraparound of maybe a day a week at college, popular for construction and automotive back in the day. But I think there are some more modern versions of it. So maybe a little bit different to the program that you've set up. Could you tell us about the scheme you developed and how it works?
Definitely. So very similar to a traditional apprenticeship program, Reach is a real job where you learn and gain experience and get paid. Like you just mentioned, in Europe, there's a more traditional way where you get out of college and either go full-time school, or you do an apprenticeship where you go part-time school and part-time do a real job. There were two reasons we could not do that. One was we don't have that set up in US around the institutional support to help that. There are some places that are coming up around it, but not a widespread norm yet. The second was we were wanting to open up that funnel, not just for new grads or people that are coming out of high school, but also for people that are switching their careers, or folks that have taken a break from their work, whether it is for taking care of family or other reasons, or our veterans that are looking for a career change and want to get back into, say, a tech industry role. So we wanted to really open up that funnel and have more than one kind of people apply and find success in becoming a software engineer.
Great. And have you noticed is there any particular group of people or backgrounds that have had the kind of more take up than another in terms of the apprenticeship?
So it is so interesting when you open up that funnel and do not look for the traditional resume or LinkedIn profile, given I'm part of LinkedIn. There's so much more that you can find. So just taking a step back, anybody can apply for the program. We don't have any qualifying criteria for it. What we do look for is grit and passion for software engineering, strong learning potential. What have you done to learn yourself, whether it is through a program, but what is your strong inner desire to like tinker and build programs for your friends or for yourself, and what have you done to do that? And that is what we are looking for, because as we all know, software engineering is not something you learn once and apply. There's a continuous learning process. We are all learning. There's new programming languages, new frameworks coming up all the time. So we look for people that are like curious by nature and always looking for continuous improvement and learning. So those are the criteria that we look for. And what we found is when we open up this aperture, there are all kinds of people that apply for it, and they are more of a reflection of the community as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess at LinkedIn, building a product that so many different people use is so important to have lots of different representation on your team to be able to really add to that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that has definitely helped us to get a lot more diverse perspectives and folks from different backgrounds. One anecdote I can share is there was a recruiter who decided to do career switch and become a software engineer. And she was part of our LTS, or Talent Solutions product pipeline engineering teams. And she could bring her own experience to the product discussions, helping us build the nuances of the product with a recruiter in the room who is also a software engineer now to help shape it.
Yeah, that's great. Really good. So it sounds like a great setup and something that really opens up the talent pool, like you've been saying. What do you feel are the main benefits that you've been seeing from this nonlinear approach?
So there's multiple benefits. Of course, biggest one is we get to hire great talent that is so motivated and passionate about what they're doing. These are high potential candidates that we get into the door. So definitely helps build that within the team. What we found is the team dynamics has improved quite a bit because there's a camaraderie within the team to collaborate in helping bring this individual, teach this individual in different ways and help them learn and grow. From a manager and a mentor effectiveness, that has also helped because most managers are cookie cutter as well that have gone through college and then learned over their job. And now here's somebody who is not the same as you, not the same as anybody that you have managed before. So they had to flex their muscles in a different way. I actually want to use a quote from one of the managers who said, "It tested my own skill set to explain things in a new way and provide feedback. And that helped me gain patience and empathy just to build that new muscles as a manager."
Yeah, okay, great. So we touched on it a little bit, but what's the kind of impact around diversity that you've seen by widening up that kind of talent pool?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, as we opened up that aperture, all kinds of people felt empowered to apply. And I think that is the biggest change. It's like when you do have people apply, then you can find people at every stage, whether it is when they're applying, then they are going through our not traditional TPS, but an application program that we developed. Happy to talk a little bit more about that too, where instead of a regular phone screen, what we ask people to do is write an essay around their experiences, how they got interested in technology, what they have done to improve, and ask them some basic technical questions as well. But what that has done is a lot more people feel they can apply for the job. Most of us have read these bias stories where just from a gender perspective, women look for 70 to 80% fit before they apply versus others. And it was the same for this set of candidate pool as well. There's so much unconscious bias as an interviewer for me, as I'm looking at the candidates, that I don't want to include that in it. Also, there's a lot of imposter syndrome that comes from the candidates themselves that, am I ready for this? So opening it up, keeping it flexible, and encouraging them to do it helped. Again, for the on-site, instead of doing whiteboarding, we did a take-home assignment that people would develop over a week, and then come in and talk about what they did and extend the program in a 2-hour workshop with engineers. What we're looking for is, can you take feedback and apply it? Can you rationally think about problem solving and apply it? And how collaborative are you in working with the team members? And that has helped us create a diverse set of apprentices that have come in. Very high level, I don't have numbers top of my head, but like we had gender representation almost 50-50. In US, we also have underrepresented communities that we saw much higher percentage representation as we looked at apprentices versus a regular hire.
Oh, that's great. That's really good. And how did you manage, did you convert the process to being a fully remote process during lockdown, or are you just restarting up the process?
We actually did work hard to make it a fully remote. It took extra energy and time to just set up those processes. We started this program in 2017, so we had some learnings and program structure in place already. What we had to really do is adapt it for the remote situation. So we did ask for the managers and mentors for the apprentice to spend extra time in onboarding, building that relationship, whether it is like online chat channels or just setting up extra Zoom calls, and check in more frequently instead of just once a week, so that people feel they're part of the community and not just sitting alone.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Cool. So you've been running this scheme for a number of years now, and I'm sure there's been loads of learnings along the way. Can you share some of the challenges and learnings that you've experienced through the different iterations that you've gone through?
Definitely. So like I said, we started in 2017. At that time, at least in US, there was not a lot of tech apprenticeship programs. So we kind of built something based on intuition, and we launched a pilot program. since then, we have learned from our own experiences, and we've also have a coalition of, you can say, tech companies that have apprenticeship programs of their own, and we learn from each other as well. So one of the biggest things that we learned was, given there is people coming from different technology backgrounds, learning backgrounds, they don't have the same baseline, and they don't learn the same way or the same pace. So we first started with a fixed 6-month program, and we found that became a huge stress point for apprentices because it felt more like a 6-month interview. Yeah. And it's like every moment was like, I need to excel for every moment, every week, every assignment, because I'm getting judged on it. So instead of doing that, we made it flexible. It can be multi-quarters, could be multiple years as well. There's a cap to it, of course. But you could learn and grow with your team and the program. We need to have a clear progression that is happening, but there is no set fixed box to say at this date you will be evaluated, as long as you're learning and growing. Given you come from different backgrounds and baselines, we support you in your journey. Like I said, like there are people that just didn't have the confidence. For them, it doesn't even take 6 months to convert into a software engineer. And there are people that take a little longer just because they're in the beginning part of their journey.
Sure.
So yeah.
Sure. And I was just going to say, so do you kind of adjust the support depending on how people are getting on? And do they stay in the same team for the duration of the program, or do they tend to move around a bit?
So we have both. We don't have rotation built into the program, but if engineer wants to have a different setup or a different way of looking at, so just taking a step back, like you could be a UI engineer, a mobile engineer, a backend engineer, or an SRE, like the site reliability support, or an AI person. We initially had a single pool for our interview pool for all of them. What we found is looking at people matching with the track that they want to get in is useful for them to feel this is what I want. We definitely educate them as part of the interview process to say this is what it means, like especially SRE. Not a lot of people from non-tech, even college going students, don't know what SRE means. So educating what that means, and if this is something you want to pursue, we have them get started. If at some point they don't feel this is the right track for them, there is flexibility for them to move around and change teams. A lot of times it is just regular org changes sometimes that happen, and people move around because of that. But there's flexibility in the program, and people find the right fit once they are in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So you talked a little bit before about managers, because obviously it's kind of two-sided. You've obviously got these new apprentices coming in, but what's the kind of impact on the managers, and what kind of support did you need to give them in order to be able to make this a success?
So like we discussed earlier, I think you're right. It's a new thing for managers too. They are not accustomed to it. So just setting the right expectation, giving them the tools and the training to how to onboard an apprentice to your team, how to make sure the apprentice feels they're part of your team, because they're an employee and you are the manager from all aspects from an HR perspective. So we work with our HR team and our learning team to put together an onboarding for the managers to say, this is how to think about this talent. And these days, all of us have the diversity and inclusion training in our companies. And this was before some of those things were popular. We started having this training to say how to think about and how to manage, not differently, but with that empathy and with that broader lens, so that they feel part of your team. How to get them started. It's very similar to an intern, but maybe slightly different. It's like maybe you start with some small projects, maybe bug fixing, so that they're aware of what your development environment looks like. What are the different parts of the product and engineering they need to be familiar with. For a lot of them, this is their first tech job. This is not their first job, but their first tech job. And we do know tech industries is slightly different from a lot of other industries. And people are like dietitian in their past life, or a teacher, or something totally different, or a veteran. And that mindset versus what we expect, which is a little bit more relaxed and less structured. How do you adapt to it and giving them space for it?
Yeah. Okay, great. And how have the teams had to adapt themselves? Has it kind of slotted in quite nicely in terms of the team structure and how the apprentices work?
For the teams, what we do is we definitely have one assigned mentor. So there is somebody who you can go to anytime for your technical questions or support, along with your manager. What we encourage teams to do is beyond the mentor and the manager, they become part of the team. It's like any new employee or a junior person joining your team. How do you create those connections where, oh, I go to Anna for maybe where the, how do I think about printing or coffee or other things? And I go to Jack for maybe for lunch, and how do I go find those things? And like some other person to say, build, creating those connection points and making them feel part of the team is very important. I would say one of the things that we found on the team is just creating that empathy across. And these apprentices, they're so enthusiastic about being part of the team and part of being in a tech company. They bring a great deal of energy and enthusiasm as well. It's like one of the teams mentioned about their apprentice, like she brings a great deal of energy and enthusiasm every day, which makes everyone happier at work and contributes making team feel like a family. So they also bring as an apprentice so much energy that the team dynamics changes as well.
Okay, wow, that's great. That sounds brilliant. And is there a network for the apprenticeships, that apprentices, okay, I guess, themselves, in terms of, can they create a network of other apprentices in terms of understanding and sharing their experiences that way?
Yes. So the way we do this is definitely feel like a community. You're not alone in this. Even though they are assigned to teams, they're part of a team of an organization. They also have their own cohort feeling. I'm an apprentice. I'm part of other apprentices, and there are people like me, and that definitely helps because everybody wants to have their own community where they can be more vulnerable about, I don't know how to do this, and I don't know how to do that. And that might feel like it's a stupid question to ask my teammate, but asking your peer that you feel is just like you is important. So we do have community around that we built, and we encourage them to have, like, take lead on that, to build that up. Given that we have had apprentices for multiple years now, we have graduated apprentices that are so eager to help and nurture the ones that are coming in now. And that has helped create a mentor-mentee relationship between the apprentices, both alumni apprentices and the new ones too.
Okay, cool. That's great. That's great. You can create that environment where they're supporting each other as they kind of learn through the whole process as well. And I think also that safe space, I think that's a really great point. I think for anybody, isn't it, when you're learning or you're in a new job or a new environment, to have that kind of safe space or community where you can ask those, what might feel like stupid questions, probably not, is really important as well. Okay, so we've been getting through the questions actually quite quickly, but in terms of anybody thinking about setting up this kind of program and considering widening their approach, their hiring approaches, what kind of things should they think about? Have you got any advice?
Definitely. So like you said, this is something we started as a niche program within LinkedIn. But I want to just share with everyone, this is not something we want to keep tight to our hearts. We want to actually share and enable other companies to step into this foray as well. What we really want to get to is this becomes a norm in terms of hiring across industry. We all know how to hire interns, and then how to have them converted into full-time employees. How can we create apprenticeships within our own ecosystem, within our own engineering teams, and then make that as a pipeline to create entry-level talent. So a few things, if you're thinking about an apprenticeship program in your company or in your team, a few different things to worry about or to think about as you put this together. One is any program requires time and energy. So I would suggest to get some leadership support and sponsorship. Because you may be the person who's doing all the legwork, but you need help with resources, whether it is program management or just the funding for the headcount as well. And buy-in from the organization is also important. So your leadership support and your organization support, both is important. One of the things we did was we involve engineers and hiring managers in the interview process. So they're actually meeting these candidates as they're going through the funnel of on-site, etc. And what I find most amazing thing is these people after the interviews, as they talk to the apprentices, candidates, is they'll come back like, oh my God, I met such an amazing person, because all of these individuals have an amazing story where they have overcome a big part of their past life, and what kind of enthusiasm and high potential they bring to the table as they're looking to their journey becoming a software engineer. So it's very highly motivating for folks as they talk to the individuals, and that brings a positive energy in making the program successful. The second I would say is alignment and buy-in from your talent acquisition team. As engineering leaders, we enable and create these new ways of thinking and pathways, but you really need to still partner with your recruiting team to make it a reality. They know how to scale. We know how to scale our systems and our sites, but our recruiting partners are a master of scaling programs in terms of hiring. Even initially, we had our recruiters be part of our interview pipeline, setting them up, etc. And over a period of time, as we have tried to make it rhythm of the business, now our recruiting team is thinking about entry-level talent as a whole. It's the same team that hires interns and entry-level talent from colleges is also now strategizing with us on how to hire apprentices. So it's the same organization, and collaborating with them helps create that funnel become a norm, a part of your business rhythm, and not just a special program that you're doing on the side. So I would say involving them upfront, leveraging their scale techniques that they can own and then run with is very important. And last but not, yeah.
I was just going to ask a quick question about that. Was that hard to get them on board? Was it quite a kind of the hearts and minds kind of piece to kind of get them to think?
It was definitely hard for them to think differently. I would say because we did talk about leadership support. So given Eng leadership was aligned and on board, getting a top-down guidance from them to the recruiting team helped, to be honest, for them to partner with us effectively. It was a learning process, and I think we spent a lot of time iterating on how to do it, both from an attraction of talent, like what do we do to put the word out, how do we think about screening and optimizing on the TPS and the on-site stage so that we have right number of recruiters, right number of interviewers involved. So those things we had to work out over, I would say we continue to iterate on it. We look at our numbers very closely, how many people applied, how many people got to run from stage 1 to stage 2, and how can we optimize number of hours. But having that top-down alignment definitely helped bringing them come along.
Cool, great.
Last but not least, the third team that you really need to get buy-in from is your HR or human resources. Because we are hiring people, and very similar to any other employee, apprentices require the same and maybe more manager and HR support. And whether it is training of the apprentices on their role and what to expect, also like we discussed, the training of the managers, all of that requires HR, I would say the framework and the machinery that our HR systems provide, that was helpful as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I think you might have mentioned it before, but I just wanted to check, because it's obviously been a really successful structure that you've created for engineering. Are there plans to roll it out for other areas within product or engineering, but even maybe, other areas of the business that aren't as tech focused?
No, I think that's a great question. Something we are thinking about within LinkedIn. We have seen some of these programs outside of LinkedIn that are for non-tech apprenticeships as well. And we have started to create playbooks within engineering. We have expanded from being just an application UI or a mobile engineer to like an AI engineer or a data science engineer. We are trying to figure out how to do it for technical program management, and just going beyond that, there are programs that I've seen for sales hiring or for recruiter hiring. I would say at a very high level, the structure is same. How do you open up your funnel for the attraction strategy for the candidates to apply? How do you modify your interview process to not look for achieved skills, but raw skills that you can build upon and help the person learn? Looking for that problem solving or the soft skills of working collaboratively with team members. And then how you evaluate their progress is different for each of the, I would say, disciplines. And that is something that requires the discipline expert to help create. To be honest, given I was an applications engineer myself, when I was part of the very first brainstorming or putting the program in motion, that was the easiest thing for me to think about, to say, how do I evaluate differently but have a positive outcome as an application engineer? So I brought my experiences to the table in crafting the program for an application engineer. As we expanded to, say, an AI engineering discipline, what we have done is partnered with an AI leader who brought that level of like day-to-day, what is the raw skill needed to be successful to the table. So having those champions that are expert in those fields that can help take the framework and apply it for that particular discipline, I actually think it is definitely very much feasible, something that we should definitely think about. And what we're really looking for within LinkedIn or outside is really those champions who can help create those nuances to make the program successful.
Yeah. Okay, great. And is it worldwide, the program, or is it specifically in the US?
So for LinkedIn, currently it is only in the US. It is beyond Bay Area. We do have apprentices in New York also. It is interesting that from a worldwide perspective, LinkedIn does not have offices in too many places. We have our engineering presence in India and China. And both of those markets are very different from a hiring and a talent perspective, although we would like to expand it. But the needs are slightly different as you look at different geographic locations. But the framework or the skeleton of the program can definitely be applied in any situation and needs as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, I think that's the end of the key questions. Was there anything specifically that you wanted to say that we haven't mentioned?
Well, one thing I would just maybe reiterate and emphasize on is looking at the program that we have done in the last few years. We have been successful in not just launching the program, but also getting the conversion from it. We actually have some of our apprentice engineers that joined in 2017 that have now graduated to be a software engineer. Not only that, but they actually been promoted to being a senior software engineer. So we have tons of them at LinkedIn that are the next generation that now are helping not just the apprentices, but like LinkedIn engineering at large across the board, and bring that energy and different perspective. So it's a successful way of hiring and investing in talent. So I encourage all of you guys that are in the audience today and beyond to think about how you can open up that funnel for your team and for your organization. And like I said, we don't want to keep it at LinkedIn. We want to share. So if there's any questions today or even later, feel free to reach out the Reach program at LinkedIn, whether it is me and a bunch of other folks that are very intimately involved with the program. Would be more than happy to help you out.
That's great. Thanks, Shalini. And we've got a couple of questions here. So let me just make sure I get to their place. Okay, so did you explore neurodiverse groups? If so, what support and training was put in place? And that's from Session, sorry.
Can you say that again?
Session?
Oh, hey, Sachin. So we did not look for a certain group specifically to apply to the program. Like I said, the program itself is very open. Anybody could apply. There were a couple of individuals that I can talk about that came through the program that had specific needs. One person that comes to mind who is visually impaired, and we had to figure out how to do some of our training optimized for their experience. We had to make sure some of the tools and software that we use is available to that individual without any problem. And any things that we need to adapt and adopt, we actually made sure we do that. Again, this helped not only that individual, but we actually had a couple of other full-time software engineers that were in a similar needs. So we had some of those things in place, but we actually made sure some of the onboarding and other support structure was optimized for that individual's needs.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question we've got here, also from Session as well. Oh, sorry, that's gone. Sorry, just bear with me a second. I think I just clicked on the wrong thing. So what was the broad selection criteria to filter profiles? As it's a wider application pool, needless to say, the volume of profiles could be huge.
That is very true. It was hard for us to think when we launched the program very first time whether anybody would apply. We did put some, I would say, the social posts out both on LinkedIn, Twitter, and other places, but we had no clue how many people would find this program, talk to them, have them feel like they could apply. So we opened up our application process, I believe, for about a week or two. And we definitely had more than what we had expected and planned for. So just to give you an idea, for the very first time, we, I think, had over 500 plus applications. And we planned to review them. And we did do it manually. There's no automation around this, very similar to a college application. This was a multiple page application that was for certain 3 questions, and you can find it on our website if you are interested. The way we did it is we have evaluators assigned for each of the question, and they give a scoring based on rubric that we developed for our own needs. But what we are really looking for is examples of grit and persistence in their previous life. What have they done to overcome and how much perseverance and determination they have, because this journey of becoming a software engineer will require that. And you may have the raw skills, but you need to also have the discipline and the grit to make it to the other end. And are you committed to doing that? Have you shown that level of commitment, not just for software engineering, but for other things in your life? Do you have leadership component? Like, do you lead your own life, or do you also lead others, whether it is helping out, whether it is bringing them along in various walks of life? Passion for engineering. So we do ask the question, how did you get interested in software engineering? What sparked that interest? A lot of times we find people in jobs that required automation, and they just naturally got drawn to it and learned, whether it was Python or Excel, and then programming and automating their scripts, doing reports instead of manually, but using automation to do those. That led one thing to the other, and then they got really interested, got into the program, taking some courses. We actually found teachers who were helping their students apply for software engineering or learn software, and in the process they had to learn themselves. And there's one person I know who's part of LinkedIn now. She's like, I wanted to actually role model for my students that this is possible. And as she got more interested into computer science, she decided to just take the leap and go full-time, full energy into that. So those are all the things, like desire to learn and grit and perseverance that I just talked about, and passion for engineering is what we really look for.
Okay, great. And just to add to that, then, where did people find out about the program? Like, what are the kind of avenues where you kind of advertise it to kind of make sure that the largest amount of people had this access to it?
We are still iterating and learning. We'll love to know if there's any place or if people have more ideas. The things that we have done is in the US, we have these boot camps that teach software engineering. So we definitely let them know about it through our community program partnerships, to say, we are opening up application period at this time. Make sure you are talking to your partners and your students about it. Definitely put some social posts around things. We encourage, over a period of time, we have had that network, but we've always feared that we are creating a bubble of that network, and how can we make sure people outside of that network is aware of something like this. So it's always an iteration, something that we want to continue to improve on and make sure people outside our immediate networks are hearing about it, are able to understand what the program is. What we do now is, instead of just opening up application period, we actually do a period of announcement where we say the applications will start in 2 weeks period of time, like on, say, July date. And during this time, people can talk about it, just expand and inform their network. And when the application period starts, it's hopefully enough time has elapsed for people to learn about it.
Okay, great. And I think talking about it like this as well is a great way, isn't it, to get people better understanding about what you're doing and get the word out there.
Definitely.
So that's cool. Okay, I think we've got one more question. So this is from Harry. How do you prevent the training of your apprenticeships from distracting from the resources of your teams?
Hi, Harry. So that's a great question. How do we balance, if I understand correctly, how do we balance nurturing and educating the apprentice while also delivering on the projects that we are doing? So it is part of the expectation setting that we do. And that's why assigning a mentor versus the whole team is important, where we do allocate 20 to 40% of mentors' time, at least in the first 3 months, to help the apprentice so that their deliverables do not get impacted without planning. From a team's perspective, we do want the individual, the apprentice, to be a self-starter, somebody who can learn over a period of time when to ask for help and when to continue to spin their wheels on their own. And that's a very hard thing to learn for as you're starting out, because you could just go in deep into documentation and just spin your wheels for like many hours or many days, versus for every little thing that you're stuck on, you go and ask, how do I do this? And then how do I do that? So I think it's that right balance of figuring out when to ask and when to research themselves. And that is something we try to help the apprentice understand in their first few months.
Okay, great. And is there specific resources that are available to the apprentices?
These are all resources that are widely available. What we have done over a period of time is ask the apprentices themselves, what have they found successful and useful for them? So like, for example, very early on, there was an apprentice who was a Python programmer. And what we use at LinkedIn in his team was Java. So what he had to learn in his first 3 months was how to learn Java using all the constructs that he had learned in Python. He's like, what if there was a book that could just translate Python to Java and I could just learn that way? And he had his own struggle on how to go about it, but then he documented what courses or what books he referred to. And so we ask apprentices to create those resource and I would say libraries for sharing with other apprentices. So we actually encourage them to learn from each other around that. One thing I didn't mention is we actually, as part of the program, give 20% of their time to, which is paid, and part of the program is to learn themselves. So in a week, 80% of their time is doing the job and learning on the job. And 20% could be if they're attending a course or a community college or just doing their side project to learn the concepts. Is something that they could plan for either themselves or in partnership with their mentor and manager too.
Okay, great. Hopefully that's answered your question, Harry. So I think that's all the questions that we've got from the audience. So thank you very much for your time today. Any parting words for the audience at all?
Thank you so much. Oh, is there another question?
No, sorry, no more questions. I'm just saying I'm going to share the contact details because you've kindly said that you're happy to
definitely
field any further questions that people might have.
Yes. Thanks, Anna and CTO Craft, for having me here and talk about the alternate way of looking at hiring pipelines, especially in software engineering. The tech divide is real, and whatever we can do to bring that closer to everyone is an important part of what we can all do. So it's not just helping the community, but also helping your teams hire great talent. So it's a win-win in both sides. So highly encourage you to think about it for your teams, and feel free to reach out, like I said before. And thanks, Anna, for a great conversation today.
Great, it's been fabulous chatting. So just to let everybody know that the next CTO Bytes event will be on Friday, the 18th of June, and we'll be talking about redefining problems through nearshoring. If that's of interest to you, then look onto that event. But thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Have a lovely evening or rest of your day, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you.